In our last installment, Joseph received the record on September the 22nd, 1827, from the angel Moroni. However, the family was not certain about whether Joseph had received the plates from the angel. Joseph kept his plans a secret to protect the plates and himself, as well as the rest of the family, from our enemies. I assumed he must have received the plates from the angel because he brought home the Urim Thummim, which was buried along with the plates. Joseph allowed me to feel the Urim Thummim, which he called the key, under a silk handkerchief, soon after coming from the hill. He never mentioned anything to me about the record, but he did ask me how he could obtain a chest, which I knew was for securing the plates. Joseph talked with Joseph Knight alone in his bedroom and probably told him about the plates, but Mr. Knight did not talk about what he had learned from Joseph. Now, let's go on with our story of what happened the following day. The next morning, on September the 23rd, knowing that Joseph needed money to pay the cabinet maker for a chest to conceal the record, God sent Joseph a job. A widow named Mrs. Wells needed work done on her well and sent a messenger to ask Joseph if he would like to work for her. Joseph gladly accepted and left for Mrs. Wells' farm. Soon after Joseph left to work on the well, one of our neighbors came to the house to ask my husband about the plates. Joseph Sr. was informed that 10 to 12 men had come together for the purpose of finding out where the plates were deposited. The leader of this group of men was Willard Chase, a Methodist class leader. These men had asked a man who lived 60 miles away to come to Manchester, who could divine by the use of magic to find the place where the record was deposited. My husband went to the house of Samuel Lawrence, where the group was meeting. He went to ask to read their newspaper. While he was reading the newspaper in their home, he overheard the group's conversation in the backyard through a cracked door. They were making their plans to find Joe Smith's gold Bible. To warn her husband and that their conversation was being overheard, Samuel's wife stepped out to the yard, saying, "Sam, Sam, you are cutting your own throat." Then Joseph Sr. heard the diviner shout, "I am not afraid of anybody. We will have the plates in spite of Joe Smith, or all the devils in hell." My husband told Sam's wife he could not finish the article he was reading, and he left their home. Joseph Sr., on returning to our home, asked Emma if she knew anything about the record, whether Joseph had taken the plates out of the place where they were deposited in the hill, or if he had them. Did she know where they were? She said she did not know. Then Joseph Sr. told her what he had recently seen and heard. Emma said that if Joseph had the plates, she was sure that he had protected them. She also believed that wicked men could not prevent Joseph from performing the work he had been given to do. "Yes," said my husband. He agreed with her. "But," he said, "if he is watchful and obedient, but remember that for a small thing Esau lost his birthright and blessing, it may be so with Joseph." "Well," said Emma, "if I had a horse, I would go and see Joseph." Joseph Sr. told Emma that he could have a horse for her in 15 minutes. His team was gone, but they had turned in a stray 2 days ago, and he would have William go and get it for her. The horse had a hickory branch around its neck, which the law required to identify that the horse was a stray and had not been stolen. Emma was soon on her way to her husband. She rode for more than an hour to where Joseph was working. When Emma arrived at Mrs. Wells' farm, Joseph was out of the well waiting for her. Joseph kept the Urim Thummim constantly upon his person to look into it and make sure that the plates were not in danger. He had checked to see that the plates were all right, and he had also seen Emma coming. Emma told Joseph what his father had learned and experienced at the Lawrences. Joseph decided to return with Emma. He needed to be home and closer to the record in case the need arose. When Joseph told Mrs. Wells that he had to leave, she was very disappointed and didn't want him to go. He promised her that he would come back to work as soon as he could. His promise satisfied her, and she gave him a horse to ride. Joseph mounted the horse in his linen work frock, and with his wife by his side, on the stray, they rode through the town of Palmyra and on to our farm. About a mile from home, however, Joseph met his father pacing back and forth, waiting for them. Joseph said, "Father, there is no danger. All is perfectly safe. There is no cause for alarm." After they arrived home, Joseph rested a while, and then he sent his brother, Don Carlos, to ask Hiram to immediately come to see him. Hiram lived close by. When Hiram came, Joseph told him to get a chest with a lock and a key and have it ready for him by the time he got home. Then Joseph left to get the plates. The plates were hidden about 3 miles from home in an old birch log that had decayed, except for the bark. Joseph had taken his pocket knife to cut the bark, and after turning it back, he had made a hole large enough to receive the plates. After depositing them in the log, he had replaced the bark. Then he had placed old branches and grass and such that were lying nearby to conceal the place where the plates were deposited. Joseph took the plates from the hollow log and wrapped them in a linen frock or shirt. He placed them under his arm, even though they weighed 40 to 60 pounds, and he started home. He walked a short distance along the road and then decided to go into the woods where he thought it would be safer. Traveling some distance in the woods, he came to a large tree that had fallen, and as he was jumping over it, a man sprang up from behind him and gave him a heavy blow with a gun. Joseph turned around and knocked him to the ground. Then he ran at top speed. About a half a mile further, he was attacked in the same way. He soon brought this man down also and ran on again. But before he got home, he was accosted the third time with a severe stroke of a gun. He struck this man with such a strong blow that he dislocated his thumb, which he had not noticed until he came inside of our home. When he saw our home, he threw himself down to rest in the corner of a fence to catch his breath. As soon as he was able, he got up and finished his race to the house. With fright and exhaustion on his face, Joseph burst through the door with the plates tucked under his arm and said, "Father, I have got the plates." He handed the plates partially to his 14-year-old sister Catherine, who helped him put them onto the table so that the rest of the family could gather around. Joseph could tell that his father and brother William wanted to see the plates, but he told them that they could only feel them. They could not see them. William picked them up to see how heavy they were, and that's when he determined they were 40 to 60 pounds. And then he could tell by feeling them that the plates had leaves like a book. Joseph asked me to send Don Carlos down to Hiram's to tell him that he needed the chest. He also told me to ask his father, Mr. Stoll, and Mr. Knight to go look for the men who had attacked him. When Don Carlos went into Hiram's home, he was entertaining 2 of his wife's sisters and drinking tea. Hiram's wife, Jerusa, was in bed, since she had recently had a baby girl, whom they had named Lavinia. Don Carlos touched his brother's shoulder just as he was raising his cup to his mouth. Without hearing a word, Hiram dropped his cup, sprang from the table, picked up the chest, and turned it upside down, leaving the contents on the floor. He left the house in an instant with the chest on his shoulder. When Hiram brought Joseph the chest, he locked up the record and threw himself on the bed. After resting for a while, he got up and went out and talked to his father, Mr. Knight, and Mr. Stoll, and others who had come back from the scouting expedition. They had not been able to find any of Joseph's attackers. They hadn't seen anyone. Joseph showed them his thumb and said, "Father, I must stop talking and have you put my thumb back into place, for it is very painful." When this was done, Joseph related to our guests the whole history of the record, which interested them very much. They listened and believed all that he told them. Both Joseph Knight and Josiah Stoll remained friends to Joseph until the end of their lives. Joseph Knight and his family were some of the first to be baptized into the church 3 years later. With the plates in our home, life became increasingly difficult. Word quickly spread that Joseph had the plates in his possession, and people came offering money and property to see the plates. Joseph refused to show them the plates, for which he and our family received abuse and persecution. However, God sustained us and magnified us through all of it. But wait, I am going ahead of myself again, and that is what I will tell in more detail in the next time we meet. Until then, may God bless you in your quest for truth.